Leather in perfumery. Have you ever thought about what it really means? Leather is an integral part of perfumery development and of our history of interacting with scents and anchoring with luxury, with quality, with status, including social status. All of that is inexplicably and beautifully condensed into the history of leather perfumes. I really want us to dive straight into perfumery, but I just can't. I can't help myself. We gotta talk about this. I think it's missed so often how magical this particular genre is, because leather and what we think smells like leather is one of the cornerstones of development of perfumery as an industry, as a craft, because leather does not have a smell. What we think smells like leather is complicated chemical compositions and processes of how leather was tanned and then cured in order to be presented to us in form of leather objects, be it, like a leather jacket or a purse or a bag or shoes or anything like that. My interest in leather fragrances began way before I knew better, before even I had a trained nose, because the smell of leather goods is something that, if you've ever been exposed to that, if you ever lived in a country that values natural leather, that is part of its history and the heritage, if you ever touched various leather products, you will never forget that the kind of the textual, the smell of them. And the more I think about the anchoring smells that are really pivotal and important in my life, I realize that various leather smells and accessories and how I interacted with them as a kid really shaped the way I perceive the world. And I think it's true for many, many people, including those that might not even be aware just how important various scents that we think smell like leather. So the olfactory design of what leather smells like was made up. It's a cultural phenomenon because the skin of a dead animal smells rather bad. So through all the processes that those skins had to be put through, and to get rid of the stink smell of the dead animal and to preserve it from rotting, all of these castoreum animal products, different fats were used to cure it, including birch tar and many other chemicals, that what ended up giving these material the variety of smells that we know of as leather accords. And obviously, since it's a made up olfactory design from the beginning of times, leather is one of the very diverse families of fragrances. Why is it important for anyone who loves perfumes to at least try a leather fragrance? First of all, as I told you, it's integral core part of perfume history and of perfume families. Second, there are many different kinds, and historically leather products are associated with status, stability, money. Hence, leather accord, if you can find the one that fits your style and your personal preferences, is a bit of a shortcut to answer the perennial question, how to smell expensive. Because as soon as we catch a leathery smell, it's culturally is associated with expensive status symbols. There are certain kinds of leather smells, though, that smell more expensive than others, and we'll talk about it in this video. If I don't have enough time, I'll make a part 2 if you ask me to. Anyway, when it comes to leather smell, as I said, that's already a perfume. It's olfactory creation. When we move toward perfume production as kind of like a mass product that you can buy and spray on yourself, leathery fragrances started from so-called green leathers. We call them now green or patent leathers. Those send us to kind of beginning of 20th century, maybe the end of 19th century, and the key molecule there was isobutyl quinoline. It's kind of has this bittery green, somewhat poisonous kind of feel to it, and it really reminds a lot of people of leather. It sends us more toward rough leather, thick leathers. Think birch tar, animalic components that we use to treat and cure those skins and those types of leather in order to make super durable, long-lasting, forever-lasting products and leather accessories that could be passed from generation to generation as they were. Great historical examples of those perfumes that kind of capture classical old school isobutyl quinoline type of leather would be Bandit by Robert Piguet. There would be Coty, I forget the name, sort of the older ones. Some of them are still available, some of them are not. The ones that I have, kind of like as I was teaching myself different types of leather, this is the one that was fairly affordable, historic, well packaged, and wearable in my view, is Cabochard. Cabochard by Graham, historical French perfume house. Actually, it was, I think, a designer house first. Fairly affordable, and therefore reformulated, and it doesn't smell like it used to, but you can still study and understand what isobutyl quinoline type of like classic leathery accords are from this example. I chose an eau de parfum version, that's what it looks like, because I wanted something a little deeper, a little softer. I've heard that eau de toilette version of Cabochard is a little punchier and a little more crude. As I said, depending on where you shop, you can sometimes find Cabochard for close to nothing. Like we're talking $10-$30. So I do wear Cabochard, but sometimes I layer it with softer perfumes that lack a little bit of a base, a little bit of a kind of punchier tagline. So this definitely brings everything to the forefront. Bitter, kind of like patent leather, very kind of BDSM-y, piercing type of scent. A very classic representation of that. That said, I don't know many people who gravitate toward classical leather accords with isobutyl quinoline as a kind of center point in the modern times. It's worth mentioning, but I'm not sure if this is the star of the show yet. Some of the playful twists on the green leather, patent leather accords are my personal favorites. These three is pretty famous Rose and Cuir by Frederic Malle. It's, a lot of people say it's not even rose, it's more like geranium. To me, it doesn't smell like geranium. To me, it smells like isobutyl quinoline, this green piercing patent leather scent, and a bit of kind of a sour fresh green rose. Rose and Cuir lasts forever. Some people love it, some it not. To me, it's kind of like a much more wearable and classier cousin of Santal 33 by Le Labo, which I think at this point nearly anybody knows. Because Santal 33 and other kind of fresh green Santals, they to me smell like pickles, first and foremost, and only then the rest of it. This Rose and Cuir happily avoids that sad fate. So that's the one that's like as true to green leather, old school, but yet twisted to be modern, and absolute long longevity beast mode type of perfume. My two favorite, however, are more subtle, less obvious twists on this kind of mixing thick leathery fougere type of genre with leathery accord that more kind of like just supports the narrative. They're sweet enough but solid enough that anybody can wear it if you like that kind of story. So more well-balanced green leathers that I prefer, and again, leather here I would say is more of a supportive note rather than prominent one, is Fig Extasy by Mancera. And don't worry, it's not like a super sweet milky fig fruit. It's more zesty. It's kind of like fig tree with a little bit of a fruit, a little bit of leaves, a little bit of a kind of branches and kind of woodiness of the fig tree as well. And the other one that to me, it's like if you could make a leather purse out of magnolia leaves, these like super polished, waxy, thick green leaves, it would be Acqua di Parma, Chinotto di Liguria. It's the wild, I think, bitter orange that grows in Italy. Love them. They're like, this is a little more fig-like. This is more a little citrus-like. Pick the one you like more. Maybe you don't need both. Or if you want, you can get both decants from my shelf just the same. I love them both. However, again, they're not as leather-centric as some people prefer. If you really, really want to go high-end, Memo Paris has beautiful bottle design. They have a whole collection of leathers, and they keep kind of producing different variations of that. That said, one of my favorite leathers from Memo Paris is their first one, which is Eau de Memo. That one is green, well-balanced, punchy, but not nauseating, because I feel like Cabochard can be a bit much for most people if you're not like a hardcore niche lover. Eau de Memo, that's where it's at. Like, I keep looking at that bottle and just thinking maybe like secondhand, but like, yeah, it's on my wish list. If we're talking about where it all started, leather, accord, and perfume wise, that's the first category. That said, I had to bring it up because, you know, that's kind of like the heart of it. But I don't think that's what people really are looking for now when they're looking for leather fragrances. So let's transition to the next category, which is my favorite, which I have enormous amount of examples to show you from. And the one that actually culturally and historically lands at the much more aristocratic, expensive type of leather. And I learned about it when I was studying the tradition of leather production in Russian Empire, which goes like centuries into medieval ages. And there was a type of leather that was developed kind of in Europe during medieval ages that was, they called it there in translation, laoïque. And the root of that word, it's a cousin of a French word, laïque. And I guess you can say it like, but then it's too similar to the English word to like. So I will pronounce it laïque just to make it clear. That's what I'm talking about. It's kid skin. I don't know. That's the translation that Google Translate gave me. Pretty much. That was a special, very expensive leather that was produced in small quantities because it was leather of baby goats. I know, like, it's in the modern times it's hard and uncomfortable to talk about these aspects because a lot of people are vegan, a lot of people are cruelty free, and there is kind of a renewed sensitivity to these issues. That said, we're talking about historical facts and reality that just cannot be changed by our feelings. That was a legitimate part of the industry. So the small animals, the baby goats, when you would produce the skin of that skin had special softness, pliability, and elastic properties that were especially good for fine craftsmanship, for fine products such as, and let me show you, such as gloves. So I learned about laoïque leather when I was a kid, because as part of tradition in many European countries, and that goes back to like 17th century when the whole leather industry began forming itself as a prominent player in the world of fashion and perfumery and just industrial complex. The laoïque leather was so rare and could not be produced in large quantities, that everything made it very expensive, including it was treated differently. Much more expensive dyes were used, much more rare and expensive and delicate aromatizers, and the process of tanning it was used to preserve the fine quality, elasticity, and pliability of that leather. Therefore, laoïque leather products, especially gloves, because gloves functionally need to be very flexible and very durable at the same time. So here are the laoïque gloves that I got as a kid, as a small girl, that was gifted to me. I honestly don't remember by whom. That was a tradition back, especially in aristocratic circles, to gift laoïque gloves. Aristocracy wore them. They're not super practical, especially in cold weather, but they were the symbols of status. So this very fine, very thin, very soft, buttery soft, very thin, very elastic but durable leather, laoïque leather, is what the most expensive leather scent should smell like. And as again, like I got it as a kid when I was living in Europe, and to give a girl or child, especially a girl, like gloves meant that you wish in this girl to grow up and to be well established, to be in the higher layers of the society. That's kind of where the tradition of gifting laoïque gloves came from. So I do have a personal experience with laoïque leather. Mine obviously doesn't have much of a craftsmanship, so it's not the most expensive example you could find. I'm sure in aristocratic circles, there can be found pairs of gloves that have been gifted from mother to daughter to granddaughter that probably have very fine detail of craftsmanship. That said, there is a different smell to laoïque leather. And this is what we find in the contemporary leather scents. They are more skin-like, they are more almost buttery, they are more floral, they're sometimes a little bit more animalic, but not in a civet/stinky way. They're lotiony in a way. They're soft, sensual type of animalics. One of my favorites that is fairly new is Clean Suede by Etat Libre d'Orange. They call this Clean Suede. As far as I know, it's identical to Tom Finland. I think they just renamed it for the sake of, I guess, copyright issues or licensing of the name Tom Finland. So here they're going toward Nubuck, toward suede territory. Nevertheless, to me, this is the closest. I'm going to do a scientific experiment. It's pretty close to what laoïque leather, the most expensive, the most aristocratic type of leather and leather scent can smell like. This is somewhat soft, sensual musk, but it's rounded, it's not too sweet, it's not powdery, and it's just leathery enough. It's very thin, comforting type of scent. I would say that this really balances well, in my view, in between genres, genders. It's kind of gender bending type of leather scent. Another example of that I find even more sensual, but a little more sour musky, it sends us more toward the beginning of 2000s of how musks were done, is Chopard Musk Malaki. A very rare collection. It's Malaki, something Malaki, by the fine jewelry house Chopard. Less known collection. Nevertheless, I find that it has amazing fragrances. If you can find a decant of that or find it on secondary market, I would never recommend that you do a blind buy. It's not in my rules, but it's worth looking at them. This is the finest, slightly imagine a little bit of a champagne added to a soft leather smell. That's what the sour musks do for my nose. I love it. You can clearly see I've worn a lot of Musk Malaki. It's also very unisex scent. It's very elegant, and to me this is something that's just very old money. It's like on the point, but it's not all, right? Like, because you know me, I have, if I love a genre, it's gonna be a collection. Also very elegant, and I would say a little bit more friendlier. If you haven't worn a lot of leather scents and you're looking for something kind of in between so you can adapt yourself to it, is now discontinued beautiful black Fairy Tales collection by Rouge Bunny Rouge, and this one is called Silhouette. Again, let's do a scientific comparison. Very close. Like, nothing is quite that, but it also depends on the manufacturer, because they all had their proprietary perfume blend formulas, how they treated their the most expensive types of leather, including laoïque. But this is a charmer. This is really good. This is not as musky as Musk Malaki by Chopard, and it is not as, I would say, in comparison, Clean Suede by Etat Libre is almost loud in compared to Silhouette. Silhouette is incredibly elegant, but all of the fragrances in this category, by the nature of where they came from, automatically would land you with elegant compliments. Because that's just what we associate with very, very expensive, high pedigree, kind of generational wealth type of scents. A little more fun and contemporary version for you that I bought blind based on descriptions. To me, this new L'Artisan, what's relatively new, L'Artisan Parfumeur, French niche brand, super historic, fun place to try things and learn about contemporary niche perfumery, is Mont de Narcisse. It's devoted to daffodils. To me, though, it's a bit hooliganist. To me, Mont de Narcissus opens with dried bananas. Maybe, yeah, Narcissus is there somewhere, but like the sweetness at the beginning, these like dried bananas, and I love it. It's so unusual and flirty. I can't think of a single fragrance that has that kind of sweet dried banana smell. And within 15 minutes, it starts transitioning to this melancholic, like dry herbs with kind of like sad, nuanced, musky leather. It just becomes very, very Sylvia Plath as the time goes by. It's such an unusual contrast and evolution that I dig it so much. I love it. Mont de Narcisse by L'Artisan Parfumeur is very unusual take on leather, and if you like daffodils, if you like dried sweet bananas, and you like elegant, thin, laoïque type of leather scent, that's that. A much easier option for many, unfortunately discontinued, but it also means if you're lucky you'll find it for like peanuts online, is a leather scent with jasmine by Elizabeth and James. They actually really had nice perfumes, very well dressed in these beautiful bottles. I loved nearly all of them. So this is Amethyst, purple bottle. Sweeter, more floral accents, and leather there is just a hint. It's an echo. So maybe that I would call like the entry level leather fragrance if you're mostly coming from a traditional kind of easy to wear florals. I love it. I can sometimes intensify it or layer it with other leathery perfumes, but it's very nude, it's very comfortable by itself, and you can intensify it if you're applying more sprays, essentially. I love it. Amethyst by Nirvana is yet another very easy to wear, soft leather example that is just, it requires no additional explanation. And another budget-friendly option but just like Amethyst by Elizabeth and James discontinued, but I think like I've seen it online for peanuts. It is German designer brand Jill Sander. Her line simply is kind of interesting. It smells way more niche than the rest of Jill Sander fragrances. I'm a big fan of theirs because for the price that you can buy them for, it's pretty good. And they had a limited edition flankers, and they had touch of mandarin, touch of violet, and I have here a touch of leather. This is this type of slightly sour berry musky plus leather scent. If you ever tried Simply by Jill Sander, all of their flankers contain that kind of DNA. It just smells so expensive. I got mine for like $20. And sure enough, I bought backups. Yeah, I bought backups because like I share it. I gifted a bottle. I bought myself another one. Then I bought another one because like this is something that, you know, cost me close to nothing, but it makes so many people happy, especially men who are looking for something less windshield wiper fluid. Like I'm talking about Aventus Creed and like other fresh sport like gym locker type of perfumes. Like when you're looking for something but you don't want to splurge immediately a couple of $100 on something you don't know if you're going to wear or not, this is such a great way to start with leather fragrances. I wear it myself. I love it. So to me, all leather scents are unisex. Like it's very hard to find one. It has to be super austere, super harsh, smoky and birch tar centric, so that women will feel uncomfortable wearing it or will not be perceived well. Leather, just like leather goods, is for everyone. It's for everyone. It just find your favorite flavor. So very elegant, expensive, niche smelling type of leather that costs close to nothing. And the top of the crop for me in the soft leather category is Numero 10 by L'Artisan Parfumeur. And I recently watched the World Fragrance, her video on leathers. Hey Sam. And when she showed it, it's like, yes, why don't more people talk about it? It is, I don't think it's discontinued, I think it's repackaged, and it was like a limited collection by L'Artisan Parfumeur. They had Numero 9, Numero something, Numero 10. But then Numero 10 is just a standout queen of buttery, slightly honeyed like laoïque, soft baby leather. It is outstanding. I've tried to replace it with something else. I tried Mortal Skin by Humbert Lucas 777 and I love it. It's great. It's on my wish list. I have a backup that I don't want to open yet of Serge Lutens Dame Blonde, now repackaged in their flacons, kind of bell flacons, very expensive. And yet I would say Mortal Skin is more refined. But if I had to choose between the three, Numero 10, it's the paragon of the laoïque leather. It's just subtly a little bit more sweet and haunted-like. It's just my personal preference, but it comes very close. So if you're looking for very expensive, very status-like leather, go to one of the department stores or boutiques and find the finest, thinnest, softest, pliable gloves made of leather. Preferably the ones that are very, supposed to be very original, right, and very high pedigree. They might not even have the lining because in a way you're not showcasing how well the leather is made if you fill it with lining and smell them. And that will give you kind of the reference to the most expensive type of leather accord as we perceive it through history. Well, some of you would say that's all great and fun, But what about like real, like rock star, like motorcycle leather, fresh new car leather smell? What about kind of like black metal leather? What about this thick, oily, just kind of like rough type of leather? What about hookah bar? What about gourmand, deep, seductive, sweet type of leather? I got you covered. That we will consider in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this one. I am looking forward to your recommendations in these categories. What is your relationship with leather scents and fragrances? Have you ever worn any leather goods? Do you have any history? Do you live in a country that's kind of culturally has heritage that connects you with leather goods? Or is it more of mostly vegan leather, animal cruelty, and you would rather have nothing to do with it? All cultural perspectives are valid. History is history. So please let me know. I'm really curious to see what you think about it. I think probably leather perfume is the most humane way to enjoy cultural heritage and enjoy what we think of a leather scent, because those we do associate with elegance, stability, sometimes even some kind of rebellion, but definitely good, well-executed leather scent always smells confidence-inducing and expensive. So I think it's worth a discussion. Looking forward to see your comments, and we'll continue this conversation and consider darker and more gourmand, appetizing aspects of leather fragrance family in the next video. Please like and subscribe. It really does make a difference for me as a podcaster. I can't wait to see your comments, and we'll chat again in the next video.